In the depths of the Shenandoah Mountains in Virginia, there was an old chapel forgotten by time. This chapel was known as the Silent Chapel because it had witnessed a tragedy years ago. After the incident, no one dared to step foot there. In 1978, a young woman named Emily decided to escape the stress of city life by hiking in the mountains. On a beautiful autumn morning, she hoped to find peace in nature. Setting off early in the morning, Emily embarked on a pleasant hike along the forest trails. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, and the chirping of birds accompanied her. However, her hike unexpectedly turned into a nightmare. After hours of walking in the forest, she realized she had lost her way. Before panicking, she took a deep breath and began to carefully observe her surroundings. Hours passed, the sun began to set, and Emily's panic grew. The air in the mountains was cooling rapidly, and it would be even harder to find her way once darkness fell. As dusk approached, Emily finally stumbled upon a path. Following the path, she found herself in front of a dilapidated chapel. She had heard the eerie stories about the Silent Chapel, but at this moment, she had no other choice but to seek shelter and help. The chapel was abandoned and in ruins. The old wooden pews, broken stained glass windows, and a collapsed altar gave the place a haunting atmosphere. Emily sat on one of the pews to rest. The pews were covered in dust, and the air smelled musty. For a few minutes, she tried to rest in the silence, but the feeling of uneasy inside her grew. Just as she closed her eyes, she heard a faint whisper, "Welcome, Emily." She quickly opened her eyes and looked around, but saw no one. Thinking she had imagined the voice, she closed her eyes again. Suddenly, the chapel filled with a light mist, and the air grew cold. A figure appeared before the altar. It was a woman dressed in white, surrounded by a soft halo of light. Her face was serene, but there was deep sorrow in her eyes. Emily was both surprised and frightened by the woman's presence. The woman walked towards Emily and spoke in a gentle voice. "This is the sanctuary of lost souls. You are lost too, aren't you?" Trembling with fear, Emily replied, "Yes, I want to get out of here." The woman nodded and said, "To leave here, you must help the lost souls. You need to bring them peace." Emily, unsure of what to do, but having no other choice, followed the woman's lead. The woman took Emily's hand and led her to the altar. On the altar was an old, dusty book. The woman opened the book and began to recite an ancient prayer. As she prayed, the mist in the chapel thickened, and lost souls began to appear around them. These souls were people who had died there in the past. Each one was waiting to find peace. With the woman's help, Emily started reciting the prayers. Each time a prayer was read, a soul was enveloped in light and disappeared. After hours of praying, the chapel was cleansed, and the last soul found peace. Emily looked at the woman gratefully. The woman gave Emily one last smile and said, "You are free now." Emily walked towards the chapel door and opened it. As daylight streamed in, she turned around to see that the chapel had completely vanished. It remained only as a memory. Emily never told anyone about this experience, but she never failed to pray every night. The Silent Chapel and the lost souls remained a secret in her heart and mind. Emily's life changed completely after this experience. She started helping more people and listening to the stories of lost souls. On her spiritual journey, she guided many lost souls and helped them find peace. Emily realized that the incident at the Silent Chapel was not a coincidence, but a sign of her destiny. As the years passed, the number of souls Emily guided increased, each one sharing a new story with her. These stories helped Emily gain spiritual knowledge and wisdom. She now guided not only lost souls, but also living people, helping them understand the meaning of life and their spiritual journeys. One day, as Emily grew old and neared her final days, she decided to return to the Silent Chapel. When she arrived at the site of the chapel, she found the same old, dilapidated building still standing. However, this time there was a sense of peace and tranquility inside the chapel. Emily knelt before the altar, closed her eyes, and heard the whispers of the lost souls who had found peace within the chapel. In her final moment, Emily's soul also departed in peace, becoming the guardian of the Silent Chapel and finding eternal rest. The chapel, with Emily's spirit, continued to bring peace and tranquility to future generations.